Hi everybody, it's Peter Zellum's Griniflix Adventure 8 and welcome to another video. I'm following up to a video I did earlier on shooting for the first time in about 30 years my Bronica Zenza 6x6, 6cm by 6cm negative film or positive film. In which case, in that first episode I was shooting some old Fujichrome film that was around 20 years beyond its expiry date. So what are the results like? Alright, so I have good news and bad news. The good news is that the Fujichrome, even 20 years after its expiry date, was in still good nick. I didn't have any special storage locations for it other than keeping it in a relatively mild temperature, but we do have results. So the good things, I'll tell you the good things first. I had my exposures right, so that's a good thing, because I was shooting with Nikon Z6 as well, so I was using the exposure meter from the Z6, which I'm filming with right now, and then I was just replicating those exposures with the Bronica. The other thing you may have noticed in the previous video that I was concerned about loading the film in bright light. Load in subdued light. Right. It's not subdued, I got bright lights here, okay? Well, that's what it says, so I might have a bit of light coming in from the sides. It'd be interesting to see whether that occurs or not. And then I also, once I used up the film, took the film out in bright light as well. Now, from past experience, it hasn't been too much of an issue. I was wondering whether that was still the case. It was okay, so that wasn't the issue. However, some weird things have happened with the images, and I will show you those now. If you have a close look here, you might notice that some of these images, there is some overexposed areas. It's as if some lights come into the frame, particularly this one here of me in the top corner here, and then some are less noticeable than others. There's a few frames that seem to be okay, like this one here, and these two here of me, and obviously there's a black frame there where there's no image. So there's something happening, lights coming in somewhere. That did bamboozle me, and I did do some investigations. What I wanted to see is where was a stray light coming in. Bit fiddly this. Okay, so I've released that. I can put the back on. I can take that out. Now, when I cock the shutter, you can actually see all the way through. But then if I just got a torch here and shine it in through where the dark slide normally slides in, what I did notice was that I could see a speck of light coming through. I don't know whether you can see this. Anyway, we'll go there, and so shining the light in, away, in, away, in, away. So it seems to reflect on the one corner right down the far end of where the dark slide is, and that coincides with how the images were taken and also where all the light was coming from. So the sun was in the top corner. By the time this image is reversed and inverted on the film, that it ends up being also in the same location. So that's my theory. I did the same experiment with my Mamiya 6.7 and took that dark slide out and did the same experiment, and this one doesn't seem to have that problem. So whether it's, never actually noticed it before,
in the type of shots that I was taking. So whether it was already there and it was just these situations that I was photographing, or whether there's some felt in there which over the years has disappeared completely and vaporized, leaving a gap where the light can actually get in. At this stage, that's my best guess of where that light was coming in. These shots here were taken in the studio, and therefore I didn't have any stray light coming in from the side. So we don't have any evidence of that light appearing at all. So that's my best guess. Alright, so now the next thing I was also wanted to see is what sort of detail, could I nail the focus was one thing. Focus is without a doubt always the biggest challenge, I think, even with autofocus lenses. Getting the right focus on the subject in the right place is always a challenge, and it's only practice that makes perfect, and often checking and doing a number of different shots of the same situation to get the right focus. Anyway, so the same challenges here, getting the right focus, and I'll be able to show you exactly what we have there. The other thing I want to see is what sort of detail you're getting with the film for those areas that are in focus. I did get some JPEG images scanned or created, scans of this by the Photolab. The Photolab I used in Sydney was called Rewind Photolab. They have a number of different scanning services, and the higher the quality of the scan, if you want a high resolution TIFF file, you pay accordingly, so about 2 or 3 times more than what it would be a JPEG file scan. So I got JPEG file scans, but what I'll do is I'm going to photograph one of the better images here, the one that I know is in focus. Photograph the whole image with my Nikon D850 with a micro lens, probably the 60mm micro lens. Photograph really closely and just see how much detail I can get right into the grain. So I've got some good raw images that I can then investigate in greater detail compared to the JPEG files that I got from Rewind. So that's the next task, is to photograph these, and I'll go through the process right now. I've got my hue on. It's a light table, and it's adjustable from low to high, and you turn it off, turn it on. It just plugs in with the USB cable to any sort of charger that you have. So the image that's less affected by light is this bottom one here. So I'll put that down. I got some aluminium foil and then got a laminator and laminated the foil, so it's plastic on both sides, and I was able to cut out a shape which is the negative size or the positive size, and that becomes my screen around the negative. If I want to block out any other light, I did the same with some extra sheets. And then I've got a piece of glass, and I can just put that over the top. The glass is holding everything in place. So all we have to do is just set up the camera and the tripod, shoot the positive, shoot the image. Well, this process, I'll look through here. This process seems to be working well. Let me just take a little bit of video of my iPhone, and then you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see the setup more clearly of what I've got here. So the D850 with my 60mm micro lens on that, photographing the image. Okay, well, that's my exposure. Even with the iPhone, when it zooms right in, it's looking pretty good. Back of the screen here, let's zoom in a bit and see what we can see. There's my focus point right at 600 as far as the tape measure is concerned. Okay, well, I think we have success. Whew. I think it all worked. Having the backlit screen here really helps. And then I was able to muck about with the exposures and also the focus, so I've got a reasonable depth of field here. I'm when I was looking through the lens, you could see the grain, the fine grain of the film, which is so fine. Let's go into Lightroom and have a look at these shots, at the Z6 shots stitched together, and also the scans that I got back from Rewind. Let's first have a look at the film developed and scanned by Rewind. So these were the JPEG files. They're not necessarily in the same order as the negatives were recorded, but let's have a closer look. So you can see all that stray light coming in, that's affecting the image without a doubt. And also my focus is off, I think, on that one. The focus on this one is pretty good. When I compare to the shots taken with the Z6, we'll be able to find out what f-stop we used here. We've still got light coming in there, and there may be some stray light elsewhere. So this was in a studio, so we didn't have the problem with any stray light coming in, but my focus is off. Focus is somewhere on the shoulder here rather than my eyes. Also here, focus is somewhere around there. And also my focus is way off. I was trying to focus on this life-saving float, but I've missed the focus. It's somewhere on the step here. Now, I didn't have too much of a problem with stray light coming in here because the light is on the right hand side of the photo here. It's where the bright sky is. On the left hand side of the photograph there is more shadow area. To access the dark slide is from the left side here, so that's why I'm thinking that it is that light coming in through the dark slide gap there. That is the problem. We look at the next shot. Here we've got light coming in from the left side here. Here also I have a lot of light coming in, and it does actually affect this part of the image as well. It seems to affect quite a bit of the area. Also here, same issue. And here also light coming in. The image is pretty good otherwise. Well, I'm not affected by the light too much. Yes, so you can see it's not only on this side, but you can see that it's affected the image here, probably elsewhere. And also that one, and for some reason it's not affecting this image as much. It is here, still you do notice light. Possibly there is some light in here as well somewhere, but anyway. So this is going to be my reference image, where we'll do some more comparisons. But if we just look at this image here, we've got our focus point. Great thing of the tape measure, which then does coincide with my dream catcher here. So you can see what sort of detail we have. I haven't tested this lens, so I don't know its contrast wide open or what sort of detail to expect wide open, but that's what we're getting. As far as the film grain is concerned, you can see the grain here, but it's, you know, film has its own character and completely different to digital. So, and you'll be able to see that shortly. Okay, so let's have a look at the shots that were taken with the Z6. So I don't have a full comparison here, but let's just see what we've got here. So in some cases here I've just got one image. In other cases I had two images and I stitched the images together within Lightroom, hence we've got the Pano file here. I was able to do that so that I had a direct comparison with some of the photographs. Well, with the Z6 and the 24 to 70 lens set at around 50, which was equivalent to the 90mm lens that I was using on the Bronica, so that we have a similar focal length and 35mm speak. Well, being a digital image, the Z6 brings up a wonderful image. You can see a lot of detail here. It's a different image compared to film, clinical if you want to call it that. But the lenses of modern cameras are outstanding, to say the least. Let's have a look at the next one. So this is a stitched photograph put together. Lots of details, zooming in some like 400%. And another one there. Lots of detail. Again, you can see how much detail you get when you get stitched photographs together. And you get a really nice image with a Z6, which you would expect. Much easier to nail the focus. No problems without getting the focus whatsoever. With modern digital cameras, electronic viewfinders, very hard to stuff it up. So yeah, nice and clear shots here. Nailed the eye, pretty close to the eye, which Why did I get this one? And we've got lots of detail throughout the photograph into the distance. Large depth of field, I think it was at about f11. A little flag there. No shortage of detail when you take a couple of photographs and stitch them together. Lightroom actually does a really good job in stitching the two photographs together. You can't really see where the two images came together. Ah, okay, here they are. There's the join point. You can find it when you stitch it. So there are clues. The computer tries to put the image together. You can see where the joins are now. But otherwise, it does a pretty good job. In most cases, you won't notice it. And also here, it's also stitched together. Let's see whether we can find the join. It's here somewhere. Again, it's done a pretty good job. Now this was not a stitch together. This was actually photographed using the square format within the camera. So instead of shooting at 24 megapixel, you're actually shooting at 16 megapixel once you use the square format in the camera. Okay, well here are the two photographs that I took with my D850. So I took that one frame and I took two shots so that I could actually stitch the two shots together and see how much detail I could get with the D850 doing so, and whether I can produce a better image compared to the JPEG scan that I got through Rewind. The one that I got through Rewind was the lowest resolution that they do, just so that you've got a reference. That came in at about 16 megapixel, and the file size was only about 3 or 4 megabytes. Okay, so the finished pano of the D850 image when those two images are joined is this one here. Then I've exported it in a JPEG file format and made it the same pixel size, and I took also the scan from Rewind and made it the same pixel size as well, so we've got two images to compare now. And just do an XY. So now we've got those two images together now, and we can actually look in greater detail. If we go to the tape measure, and this is at 300%. I've tried to adjust the lighting and the color balance so they're similar, but they are two different scans, so they are slightly different. You can see dust starts to creep in when you as soon as you try and work with negatives or positive film. Dust just appears everywhere, regardless of how careful you are. Alright, so I was able to get a bit more contrast with my shot compared to the scan from Rewind. If we have a look at maybe another section here, you can see I've got a lot more detail compared to the JPEG file scan that was created by Rewind. And this is what I was expecting from film. Digital these days gives you even more detail. Look at another section here. Maybe, yeah. You can see I've managed to pick up more detail with my photograph. Alright, well, how does this compare to the photograph from the Z6? Okay. Alright, well, we've got the Z6 image, so just one image. I didn't get another one to stitch, so I just got the one image. And then I've got the D850 copy of the positive film here that has been stitched together, two photographs to stitch together. So the file size of the stitched together is around 21 megabytes, and you can see we've got 6,495 pixels square. And on the Z6 we've got the original file format, which was 24 megapixels, 6,000 by 4,000 there. Alright, so what things we noticed straight away? Okay, the Bronica is a 2.8 lens, but in equivalent speak to that of the 35mm format, I was shooting at 2.8. So in 35mm speak, that's actually equivalent to a f2 lens at around 50mm focal length. So the Z6 here, we're shooting at around 55mm focal length, and we're shooting it wide open with the lens. I had the 24-70 f4 at 0.4, 1/15 of a second. So straight away, what do we notice? The depth of field is different. The depth of field of the Bronica is at f2.8 is really shallow. You can see that the depth of field is only maybe about 10 millimeters deep, whereas the depth of field on the Z6 is probably about 30 to 40 millimeters deep. And you notice that in the distance as well, with the bokeh in the background. Very different, which you would expect. Dust, yes. But the film has its own character. Having grain, it has definitely a dreamy look compared to the clinical digital view. Yeah, so that's interesting. We look in this area here, where we've got a bit of fluff in the dream catcher, and you can see how the two images compare. What do you reckon? Do you like the look of film compared to the look of digital? Again, I can't really compare lenses. I know obviously with modern digital cameras like the Nikon Z6 and its S lenses are brilliant lenses, great contrast, great detail, so incredible images that you can get out of modern digital cameras. How does that compare to a lens that's 60 years old? Well, and film, you know, you get a completely different image. But anyway, that's what we got. I'm really happy that the Fujichrome film that's 20 years old, I still have a bunch of. I will still continue to use some of that. Well, this has been an interesting experiment. A couple of things in just reviewing I guess the footage. One thing I noticed straight away was around focus, and one of the issues with my with my new NFT emu eyes is those eyes. I'm gonna have to cover them up so that I get the focus and not emu eyes. All right, so the camera should have me now, so I should be able to drop that, and you should still be on me. Okay, so that was the Bronica shooting film. A lot of fun. I will repeat this process with the Mamiya next, and let's see what sort of images I can get with this. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you've learned something. Hope you found it entertaining. If it's the first time to my channel, then please do subscribe. I really appreciate that. Press notifications. You'll be notified when the next video is out. And if you like the video, then give it a thumbs up. That's how you support the channel. Somewhere in between these videos, I'll be in Central Australia, and I will be doing some outback filming as well, and I'll have some more videos on that coming up. So a little bit of variety on the channel. It'd be nice to get back into some travel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.